This episode of The Modern Man is sponsored by Addo Global.
You know, I've had these conversations with other veterans, man. It's like, I'm just tired of people saying thank you for your service, but nobody's ever doing anything about it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to say thank you because it sounds good.
Sure does.
It's the
And
right
it
thing to
makes
say.
them feel good.
Yeah.
Makes them feel good about themselves.
Like, hey, look at what I did. I told this veteran thank you. Okay, yeah, but what are you willing to do for us?
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Modern Man. It's a pleasure to have you here today. It's also a pleasure to be here at the Cigar Experience in downtown Greenville. I want to take this moment to thank our title sponsor for this episode, Addo Global, as they continue to provide medical equipment and PPE for their clients at an affordable and competitive price. This episode would not be possible without them. With no further ado, I want to jump into today's subject matter. I want to talk about duty and honor. I'm joined by our panelists. We have Charles Russ, far from me, all the way to the right, sitting here with Tim Pecoraro, and I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Vandavid Vernon, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank y'all for having me.
It's exciting to have you, and before we jump into the subject matter of duty and honor, I did want to take the time to thank you for your service. Charles, thank you for your service as well. This episode is going to be coming out during the month of November, and obviously Veterans Day just passed. So wanted to say thank you for that service, and that's kind of what we're talking about today. Really quick, Vandavid, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, talk about your background, your history really quick, and we can kind of jump into some questions.
Absolutely. Well, Vandavid, so here from Greenville, South Carolina. I served in the military for 17 years. I did 10 years active duty in the Navy, and then I got out and I did 7 more years in the reserves. So I did that because I wanted to have that camaraderie. I didn't want to miss out on it. And just leaving the military, it just almost left a void in my life. Mm-hmm. But continuing to collect and connect with other brothers, it means a lot to me. But since I've been back here in Greenville, South Carolina, I've dedicated myself to continue to try to support veterans in the area. And so by doing that, I started a nonprofit organization called Vandavid Veteran Services. And with that organization, what we do is focus on the mental capacity of our veterans when they get out. PTSD, anxiety, depression, such things as that. But how we do it is the therapy that we do is activities. So we focus on going out and doing things to build camaraderie, going out and doing things and connecting with other veterans and connecting with the community. So with that, it has filled the void in my life, and I continue to just support those veterans that I get in connect with.
I love it, man. Seems like you're a man of service, and that kind of leads into the first question that I always ask, and I'd love for Charles to reflect on this as well. But first to you, as you mentioned you wanted that camaraderie, right? I always get intrigued, and I love to ask, what is the catalyst or what pushes someone to choose to serve? Because it's a very brave and noble thing. I guess I'm interested to know your story and how that decision came about.
How it came about for me, it's a couple of things, to be honest, man. It was family, just a commitment to serve, financial security, and why I say that is because when I first decided to serve, I had a daughter. So I was a young graduate, about 21, and I was having my daughter for the first time. I was working 2 jobs, and I was like, man, how am I gonna support this child? This is my first one. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be a father. And then the military came about. So I had an opportunity of meeting a Navy recruiter, and we was talking, and he was going through some things and just telling me, hey, how you can have that financial security, how you can have that background, how you can have that medical insurance and everything for your child. And I was like, oh, that sounds wonderful. So I decided to jump in for my daughter, for my family. So I wanted to serve and be able to support her in a way that she deserves. And when I started to do that, I realized that traveling around and meeting other veterans, it impacted my life in such a way that I knew that I could give back to my daughter in a way that I may have missed out of my childhood, the things that I may not have received. And as every parent wants, is to be able to give their child something that they've never had. Mm-hmm. So when I served, and that commitment of just being able to provide for my family has been one of the greatest things for me. So to be honest, that was the number one reason why I chose to serve in the military. And then as I stayed in the military, then there became some other reasons why.
Nice. Charles.
Well, I totally agree, and even when he talked about with his daughter, that's a commitment to serve his family. It's still service. Service is a lot. But I would say with the military specifically, you do have those number of people that's always what they wanted to do, that they want to be the Army, you see them. But a lot of people, it's a circumstantial thing to start. But you get that camaraderie and the ability to see that there's a brotherhood that's built, because bonds are formed in similar circumstances, similar events. You know, it's just like a team becomes tighter when they have a stressful game. You become better, become more of a unit. So you start to think about deploying with people. You know, I was in a box for a year, in a sandbox. We call it the sandbox, in a year with these guys, and every day, and they have to have your back. That builds bonds, you know, and knowing that you have a similar experience, it builds a bond, it builds a camaraderie. So even after leaving service, one of the big things is you think about those people, those who are going through it, those who have been through it, you know, the guys that you did it with, and that bond does become very important. The serving aspect, though, it wasn't something I ever thought about before I went into the military, but that part of me grew. It grew a lot because just you come home and you see that people actually do appreciate what you do, and they understand that there's an inherent sacrifice. You get a paycheck, but that paycheck doesn't match that inherent sacrifice that you make for someone else. And when you start to internalize thoughts like that, it pours back into your family, into maybe church service, and things like that. It's like you get a heart for serving, which Vandavid obviously has, and he's still doing that to this day.
Thank you, man.
What are some of the lessons, and this is something I want, I guess, to be tangible for some of the men and women watching right now, because I know we've had discussions on kind of the skills that veterans have when they come out of the military and re-enter civilian life. What are some of the lessons you guys have learned and that you think we can maybe apply to our lives to implement a better lifestyle? For example, my older brother, he served as a Marine, and him making the bed and going through all the detailed nuances of being a Marine still sticks with him to this day. So at a young age, I saw that right away in him, and that's what I tried to pick up and emulate. So what are some things you guys have held on to that you think is helpful for folks watching to adapt to their lives?
Well, for me, I tell you, for all military, is different areas. The way I say that is because you got the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and we have different components of core values. Now, the military overall, and I'll get to that, has an overall blanket of what every military person has. They have, you know, detailed, you know, they're committed. But for Navy, and I'm not sure what Army and Marines are, but for Navy, ours was honor, courage, and commitment. Those were our core values. And with those core values, I carried that from the military to civilian life. Just having honor of just continuing to do the right thing. Having courage to make sure you just do the right thing regardless of what the circumstances may be, and then just being committed to that. And then we do that inside the military and committed to your brothers in arms, committed to your command, having courage and commitment for everything that you're doing and whatever your job is, whatever your MOS is or rate is while you're in the military, you have that commitment while you're in. But then when you get out the military and you go into a civilian job and civilian life, I carry those same core values to the company that I work for. And then just with me, just going into a nonprofit, now I carry that same thing towards these veterans that I serve. I carry that same honor, courage, and commitment to those veterans, and just making sure that they're getting the treatment that they need, and making sure we're focusing on the issues at hand for them and what they're looking for. I'll tell you one of the, a quick story, and I don't want to take us off of that subject, but just to go right back to that commitment and just why, because the camaraderie that we had is that there was a soldier. So a soldier, he goes in this hole. He's in this hole and he's digging his way out. He's trying to figure out how to get out this hole. But while he's in there, his commander walks by and throws him a shovel and says, hey, you just need to work harder. You just need to dig in and you'll get out that hole. So he keeps digging, he's using the shovel. Another commander walks by with a bucket and throws a bucket in and says, hey, you need to use the tools your first commander gave you, and here's this bucket, so start shoveling the dirt into this bucket. So he shoves the dirt in this bucket, but he's still not getting anywhere. He's still pretty much in that same place. Then there's a doctor that comes by. Doctor comes by, throws him some pills, say, hey, take these pills. These pills will help you forget about the situation, but the pills don't last. The medication is there, but now it's gone. So now I'm still stuck in this hole. Another soldier walks by, full of dirt, just grimy, and he looks at the guy and he jumps in the hole with him. So the other soldier looks at him and says, are you crazy? Why are you in this hole with me? It's like, now that you done jumped in here, now we're both stuck. And he said, calm down, soldier. He's like, I've been here before, and I know how to get out. So the biggest thing with that is that just connecting with my other brothers, man, and just having that honor, courage, and commitment to know that, hey, whatever you're going through, there's somebody that's been there too. And as long as we're working together and we build together, we can help get out of those situations.
I want to bridge a gap because the two of you on this couch right now, I hear all service, and Tim, you're a man of service 100%, and I want to know where your start for that love of service comes from, because I can see the parallel between you two, and I do that because I think there's a lot of us, myself included, who has the utmost respect for those who have served in the military, and yet I do also have a heart of serving and helping others, and I want to, I guess, bridge the gap for those that are watching who might not have served in the armed forces to know that, hey, we can honor those who serve us abroad by serving here domestically. And I'd love to hear that background from you, Tim, on how that first came out into fruition.
Yeah, so, to me, if there was a crown that you could put on your head, there are certain gems that'd be missing from it, and service is one of them. I think love is a missing gem from crowns, because I think every human has a crown, and we have to fill it with the stones, right? And one of the things in which I do appreciate via, what the military teaches and invests in people is that component of service. But it's the service meaning I'm with you, not just service like I serve just beside you, but I'm with you. Most survival, like if you think about people that have been in combat from Vietnam, you look at the SEAL training, anything that you look at with these guys that have gone through something, most survival is because of the brother who was with them, you know what I mean? Like not just beside them.
Absolutely.
It's a different mindset. And so my family's kind of broken dynamics in that, but there were several military people, and my stepfather, my first stepfather, he was Navy, so he was 20 years Navy and lieutenant duty officer, which is you probably know the rank.
I do.
But he went through it, and so he's black and Indian, so he's from Abbeville, South Carolina. Well, he passed away in 1997. But just being in the military at that time, this is and this is when I was a kid, so this is like 1978, 79, and what he went through doing that. But just seeing the camaraderie, the brotherhood, I saw those things. So even as dysfunctional as he could be relational with me, the things that he taught me as it related to the diligence. Diligence is a part of service. You have to be intentional about service. Mm-hmm. You have to get your mind in the spot. You have to understand what you're serving for, what's the bigger picture. Those have influenced me, but the things that I'm hearing that Vandavid has just shared is that if half of the companies that are out there in the world today would train, develop, and do simple things like what he's talking about, you'd have less turnover, less dysfunction, less dissatisfaction. I mean, you'd have so much more value. And as a coach and what I do working with companies, the stuff that he's talking about, because when you go through, what's the first thing you do is boot camp. Now what they do is they onboard you. You do your paperwork, they know that you got some skills, and they throw you at a desk and say, good luck with all these people. But they don't put you in situations where you have to figure out who you are, how you show up, and how's that going to relate to. And these are two military men here. How does Charles and Vandavid work? How do they do it together? They put them in those situations to go, you got to figure this out. But here's the goal. And the only way you can reach your goal is to do it together. Could you imagine if companies did that? Could you just? That's what's in my mind. So my early understanding of it was there. I knew it was something I wanted, but I did see it in my grandfather, not my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my great-grandfather defected from the military. My grandfather stayed in it, but then my stepfather was the next example of it. And I saw that. I didn't like him as a person, if I'm being honest, but the things he demonstrated and the commitment and all that and how he served, like he would do the things, he didn't want to do things for me, but he did them because he knew he needed to do those things for me. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, and even when you have a broken heart or a broken person, if you can get them into a situation where they have the opportunity to grow and learn to figure some things out and boot camp people. I mean, what would it be like if that's what a job did? Was like, so you want this job? I know you can't do it, and everybody watching, don't be putting on their Tim HR needs to do this, human resources. But I tell you what, wouldn't it be great instead of saying 90-day probation? What if you say your first 8 weeks is boot camp? Not to say you're gonna lose your job, because we ain't gonna send you home. It's boot camp to develop you as a person. And we're gonna put you with people that you gotta figure out how to reach the goal.
Well,
you're gonna build
make you strong.
Yeah, you gotta build trust. You gotta learn to have conflict with each other around ideas, but it's gotta be healthy. You gotta learn to have common goals and shared goals. You know what I'm saying? Like all these things that are necessary. So anyways, I don't know if that's answering your question, but man, I'm just listening to that.
I'm sure you got that.
I'm just sitting there thinking, man, like, could you imagine if that was in the workplace? And I mean, people that don't have the skills of maybe some other people with all the polish, because the military polished you, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
And that's where a lot of people miss it at when they come out. So when they come out of the military, they're used to that. And so now they're going into corporate lifestyles and it's not there. And so then that's where all of that camaraderie starts to dissipate, and it doesn't, I mean, you don't see it anymore to the point to where you start to see that anxiety start to come. You see that depression start to come. You start to see that PTSD, because I tell you, with our veterans, it's not like they just, PTSD wasn't there while they was in. I mean, whatever they went through, I mean, that PTSD came about and it started to grow. But the thing is, while you're in the military, you got a mission. You got something to focus on that'll take you away from that mental anxiety, away from that depression. So, hey, we got a mission. You ain't got time to sit here and think about your feelings and your emotions. I need for you to do a job. I need for you to do this mission. But now that I'm out, and now that I'm working this corporate job, now it's constantly just flooding back on me, and I don't have any outlet. I don't have nowhere to go for it. But now I'm over here clocking in 9 to 5 every day. They don't understand me. They can't relate to me. They don't know what I've been through, but all they can do is just point me here and tell me to do this and do that, and I don't know how, and nobody is there to support me and help me. And then now I'm going back home with that same frustration. So I just want to try to find those brothers and be like, hey, we're here for you. No matter what, you still got a brother in arms here. There's a mission, but now the mission has changed, and I'm going to walk that mission with you. So yeah, he's absolutely right. If jobs and corporations did that, man, and just focus on their people a lot more, yeah, it'd be so much less turnover.
Well, there's a few pieces, and I want to really push it back to Vandavid. But for the first thing, the Army is a hybrid business structure. The military in general is a hybrid business structure. It's not totally project focused, but it's not totally, sectional focused. It's a hybrid business structure. And it literally, I see the exact parallels out here trying to run a business as when I did my master's. It's the same thing. The military is a business. Don't ever forget that. So when you're thinking about hiring veterans, you're getting a polished product already. They come out, not only do we know whatever skill that we were trained for, we know how to work within a structure, we know how to be on time. These are things that have to be taught, and I don't see a lot on people coming into your workforce brand new. So if you've got a 10-year military veteran, he's going to be on time, he's going to get his stuff done on time.
You do it for everybody else.
Yeah. Hey, bro, we supposed to be here. So that's a different universe. So the second piece of that is kind of alluding to what Tim said, is taking it's organizational culture, which we don't have it, but it's become a huge focus. That's why people bring in guys like Tim to have organizational culture. Even the military, who I feel like actually has been a leader in organizational culture for a long time, but nobody sees it that way. They're even starting to bring in more people to do more of this, more organizational culture change. Because every unit you go to has a different culture.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and that culture comes from the top. Whoever the commander of that unit is, you feel that culture. That culture. You change commanders, culture shifts. And, you know, it can be immediate change for positive or negative. So that's real, and all that stuff is very business focused. And I don't think the business community often sees that in veterans when they're talking to them. They're talking to this grizzled guy who's been in the hole.
That's it.
Yeah.
But what they don't see is the product that's there, and maybe they don't know how to present that product in the manner they should, but the product is there. I would hire a military guy in a second, you know, in a heartbeat.
Military and athletes. That's what I tell people that played on team sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, consistently in a military person. I'm like you, I'd hire him in a heartbeat.
And then the last piece, though, so I recently had a friend, you know, he called me and he's like, so I'm going to rehab for 3 months tomorrow. And I was like, drug rehab? And he's like, no, PTSD. He's like, I've been spiraling for years. Now, this has been like, he's like, I've been spiraling for years. I've been in a dark place, and it's like, it's at the end, I put a gun in my mouth. He's like, I can't, you know, but luckily he called his sister. His sister was like, came over there, got him. You know, he called a few people. But you know, the thing is, like, even being a veteran, no clue. You know, because that's the other thing about veterans. We got to get it done. Just got to get it done. Just got to get it done. Mm-hmm. But there's that demon, that monster that's in the back that you know, that it's there. And I think that the great overlap here with what Vandavid is doing, and some other organizations doing, and what the Modern Man is doing is showing that power of the other, that you need to stay in contact with other people who understand your situation, have an empathetic ear, and then, you know, also the ones that want to help you grow, want to push you a little bit to get you out of that situation. So, Vandavid, I'd love to hear more about how your program speaks to that part, specifically for veterans, and even how, you know, how you can carry that into the business world if you really want that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As far as how we focus on it, if I'm understanding your question right, is how we focus on those veterans. I tell you, the number one thing I do, first of all, is trying to reach them. You know, right now, South Carolina has a huge market for veterans, and there's, like you said, a lot of organizations out here touching these veterans, but we're not penetrating the market like we would like to. Yeah. I think organization that's been out here since 2012 has all the resources for veterans, but they've only penetrated 7% of the market. 7%. So it's so many other veterans out here that needs the service, like you said. Hey, they don't know where to go, putting guns in their mouth, or just thinking about suicidal thoughts, and just not having the support and don't know where to go and how to reach it. What we're doing is, once we get in contact with them, once we find them, we show a brotherhood. We connect with them and let them know, like, hey, you know what, whatever it is that you need, we're here for you. We're gonna walk with you. But through that, let's do some camaraderie activity and connecting with other veterans. Because the main thing is that once you start to connect with other veterans, then you can start to grow and you can start having more communications. It's almost a similarity of just saying, hey, I'm gonna put you in a room with like-minded people like yourself, but then let's take that person and put him in a room where he knows anybody and doesn't understand the dynamics of the room and how they're gonna close up, how they're gonna become a shell, and how they're gonna try to go to a corner by themselves. But once we start to connect veterans with veterans, they start having those communications and talking, you'll start to see them just open up like a flower.
Can I ask you a question there? Because that kind of goes back to something that I really believe. Do you feel like the common stress, the stress that we have in common as veterans, even if you've never deployed, just the stress of military life, and I mean, even training sometimes is dangerous.
Yeah.
But then even, you know, taking that step further, like when you start to get around people who have shared a trial or shared a tribulation with you, do you feel like that really allows them to open up more?
I do, and they start to resonate more with that. And I mean, like, even outside the military, even just like we're talking about with Modern Man, just men themselves, you know, just coming in similar things that we've gone through. I don't care what branch you've served in. We served in the military, so we still got some type of common stories that we can share and where I can relate to you. And I started to open up and I started to talk more, because now that when I'm talking and I'm sharing with you about my situation, I know that you understand. I know that you know. You may not understand as far as like just being in the ship life if you was in the Army. You don't understand that, but you do understand about being deployed. You do understand being away from family members and just not being able to talk to somebody for months and just being stranded or left in an area to where you just, hey, you know, this is where I'm gonna be for the next couple of months, but I know you know. You know, so hey, tell me more. And we start to share those stories, and as we start to share those stories, we start to build a relationship. And by building that relationship, now I feel more comfortable of start talking to you about other things. And then we start to share things because we can't grow unless we start to rip off some of those layers and start to be more transparent with one another. But you can't be transparent with somebody that you don't feel comfortable with. You know, and so once I started to build that relationship with you, I started to tear those layers off. And now we're starting to get to those, oh yeah, you know what, I've thought about that before. Yeah, I've had suicidal thoughts before. Man, you know what, I've struggled in this area with my relationship with my family. And you know, because in the military or whatever it might be, I have too. So what did you do about it? You know, hey, you know, I'm still struggling with it. Well, you know, I know this person, and we start to connect, and now we're connecting another veteran, and now you got this whole community of veterans just helping each other. And now we're going out and we're doing life together. So we out there doing yoga together. We out here going to gun ranges together. We out here doing top golf together. And we're constantly doing different events each month to try to connect with these veterans and let them know like, hey, we're gonna stay connected and we're gonna continue to do life together. And whatever it is that you're struggling with and going through, let's go through it together. So.
I love that. I love what you're doing. And we're coming up on the last 5 minutes here of this episode. And I wanna kind of unpack this all together in terms of, you know, we always say thank you for your service. How can we as civilians serve our veterans? How can we as civilians and how can we as men serve you guys? And this is an open reflection question for everybody.
I guess so. I'd love to hear, because I definitely want to hear Vandavid close it out. You know, just look at veterans, especially if they have a history, they have some PTSD on the resume or whatever. You know, don't hold it against them, because I mean, people do. They're scared of it because they don't understand it. So that's the first thing. Second, give them a different look. You know, again, give them a look in two ways. They can really help your organization from their work ethic, from their caring, from their team building. Because the military is all team. You know, I mean, some of the best experience I had was we built a multi-force team. You got Air Force, Army, Navy guys all have to come together for this joint responsibility to protect the asset, and you know we can operate like that. Even guys who were lower level have those experiences and can operate like that. They can bring things like that to their community, cross-departmental projects. They can do things like that. So just give them fair chances. And don't be afraid to support them. Don't think, oh, this guy's going to be a liability, because they're not. Their value far outweighs any liability that they're going to bring. And at the end of the day, they're going to give you something that a lot of people don't think about. They're going to give you a chance to serve.
And let me just say this. There are barriers to entry all the time, to anything. And I love what you said about just the reach connect stood out to me big time. You know, most people, they'll say, well, I don't understand their plight. I don't understand their situation. Like, they don't understand when you talked about the things, like you could be given an assignment, a deployment, you're given a duty, something to go do. And you have knowns, but you have a lot of unknowns too, especially in deployment, right? Depending on where you're going. So I would say to everybody watching, and it's kind of the thing that I do, so I do say thank you for your service. I say to fire, EMS people, police, I say to the military, but I also do this. I don't need to understand their plight. I just need to reach and connect, and I think just be open. Don't try to sit there and go, well, I don't see it that way, or, you know, I don't like what they do, or all this. Forget about that. They've done it. They've been doing it. You know, we need to get into more of an empathetic space and learn how to connect with people. And that's one of the reasons our world is so effed up, is because people don't understand what empathy is. You know, compassion is saying, you know, if I'm sympathetic, it means, oh, I've done what you're talking about happened to me.
Yeah.
Empathy is, I don't know what in the world that's like, but I'm gonna do my very best to come alongside you and not try to figure it out. But I'm going to reach and I'm going to connect. And I think my message to everybody would be, don't just say thank you for your service. That's great, kind. But reach and connect, and don't worry about the barrier of entry to understand or whether or not you agree with it. What they've done, where they've been, or whatever. It's not your job to understand it. It's your job to connect. Be human.
Got a harmless book plug, man. Got a harmless book plug. Well, a book that we've read. It's not my book. People Fuel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, People Fuel. So what basically, I'll explain it from a nutritional standpoint. If you need potassium, you're gonna eat a banana. You're not gonna drink orange juice. You're gonna drink orange juice when you need vitamin C. And just like people, you can't be all things to everybody all the time. You can't do it. So when you see a veteran, you don't have to give him sympathy. You don't have to solve his problems.
No.
You maybe he just needs an ear.
Yep.
An ear that's really listening, and leaves the door open for him to step through. And then other veterans can give him that sympathetic time, and people who have solved those problems can provide those solutions. So it's not always, hey, well, I'm going to put you over here. I'm going to get you in this counseling program. Man, that might not be what I need from you.
Yeah.
You might be my potassium in this case, but I'm gonna go over here to Vernon and get this vitamin C all up in here. Yeah.
I love that, man. So
David's my OJ.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Y'all are both spot on. And definitely I love what you said about not just saying thank you. You know, I've had these conversations with other veterans, man. It's like, you know, I'm just tired of people saying thank you for your service, but nobody's ever doing anything about it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to say thank you because it sounds good.
Sure does.
You know, it's the
And
right
it
thing
makes
to
them
say.
feel good.
Yeah.
Makes them feel good about themselves.
You know, like, hey, look at what I did. I told this veteran thank you. Okay, yeah, but what are you willing to do for us? You know, and it's not, like he said, it's not all about
That's
trying
empathy.
to, that's it.
How much do you
It's
care
not.
about the situation and the person and how it's harming them or someone else? That's what empathy is all about.
Give us an opportunity. So if you meet a veteran, give them a chance, especially like for the corporate world. That's all they want. Just like any man in this world, we don't want handouts. We don't want anything for free. Of course, you know, we go to these establishments and be like, hey, you know what, you got a military discount? You know, nah, but thank you for your service.
No discount, but thank you.
So that's it. But you know what? It's not all about just giving something back for free. It's not that, because as a veteran, we want to work for ours.
Yeah.
You know, we want to earn it, but just give us an opportunity to earn it. That's what we're looking for. Give us that. You know, don't take that away from us, because we do got a lot to offer, like you said. There's so much that we can bring to any type of organization, any company, any relationship that we enter into. But we just need that opportunity to do it. So if I could say anything, I would just say give us an opportunity, give us a chance, connect, give us that empathy. But like I said, whatever you can't understand, I can go somewhere else and get it. I can go over here and get my potassium.
Yes.
So
Love it. Vandavid, thank you so much for being on the show today, man.
thank y'all for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Tim, as always, thank you. Charles, thank you as well. And to you at home watching, or maybe on your phone, mobile, out and about, thank you for joining us. To the servicemen and women out there, thank you. But like Vandavid said, I'm not just going to say thank you. I'm going to recap some of the tips that they left and let you guys know how you could serve our veterans. First, I love the fact that Vandavid said he decided to jump in for family. Keep in mind that every veteran you see chose to serve for a different reason. And whatever that reason was, it was enough for them to risk their lives for your freedom. That's something important to consider. As men and women who serve in the military, they spend so much time away from home, but also think about the families who have to spend that time without their loved ones as well, not knowing if they're going to come back home. The bond that is formed. We mentioned the bond and the camaraderie, which comes around full circle even farther down when Vandavid talked about transparency and says, I can't be vulnerable with you if I don't trust you. For the men that are watching, and we talk about modern man all the time, establishing the bonds and being vulnerable and making connections with others, that's how you get past the surface layer, the 3 inches of water, and out of the shallowness to the actual depth of what's going on with somebody. So make sure you dig a little deeper, go a little farther, and build that trust with someone. Finally, give us a chance. Anybody out there that's in the capacity to hire, or anybody out there in the capacity to reach out and help a veteran by giving them a chance, please consider that and do so. Thanks again for watching. I hope you got value from this episode. Thanks again to our veterans. And to the men watching, go out there and be a modern man.